This is Curtis at Ace Per Head Studios, back at you again with another sports talk conversation. This time, it's about the Cowboys in the draft. Will they draft wise or will they draft wild? Now, Cowboys are in prime position to turn their team around. You know, the talk came out, will Jerry Jones trade up to number 4 to get Pitts? And I was like, all the big talk. Jerry Jones, he lost his mind. He's going to trade the farm just to get headlines and, move up to get that big tight end, big new toy for Dak after his horrible injury, giving him a chance to really validate that massive contract. Well, Jerry got his headlines, but I don't think that was anything more than just a little media attention thing to keep the Cowboys relevant. I personally think that Jerry, because his son is in the background, who seems to be a very wise guy, has been able to keep, he would talk Jerry out of Manziel. So I really believe that Jerry's reaching a point where headlines don't matter as much as success. I think he wants to get the Cowboys back, have them be really, really relevant. And, the offense is close. You guys have plenty of talent. You Cowboy fans have plenty of talent around Dak. You definitely, there's some question marks and there's some needs, but the primary need is defense. And I don't think that's where, Jerry's going to dump the whole house into. Now, you could use a tight end. I mean, you have one adequate tight end, but this draft class is very thick. It's got one top end player who questionably might even be more of a receiver than a tight end. So you're going to have to find that gem in the later rounds. So I really don't see an offensive weapon being that crucial. I don't think Jerry is that crazy. I think he's crazy like a fox. With you guys, it's defense, defense, defense. You have Quinn coming over from Atlanta. He's your new defensive coordinator. I have my reservations. I mean, I like Dan Quinn. I like his defenses that he puts together. I just don't know if I love them. But, who knows? Who knows? I mean, they made it to the Super Bowl, but unfortunately it was the defensive system when they had lots of talent that really cost them the Super Bowl. But move on without that. We'll stop talking about that. I don't want you to get you guys down at all. Cowboys and I'm a Finn fan. I'm a Dolphins fan since 1978. Old dude. Go back to the late 70s when I really started watching football. Then like the mid 80s. And then, the tail end of the Dolphins. Marino Dynasty was in the 90s. Always grew up admiring Roger Staubach. I always admired Landry and Shula. Those were like two of the primary figureheads when I first got into football. The coach would say, "Look at this guy," and there is an America's team that really is around the Cowboys, but obviously, when the '90s came and it was so good, it became very easy to dislike them, and I did. I disliked them. I wanted them to lose all the time. I mean, I enjoyed the first Super Bowl win, but then I kind of got sick of them real quick. But the Cowboys did something that only greatness can do. It can turn a doubter and a hater into a believer because they were so good. And it was the offensive line. I loved Emmitt Smith, Michael Irvin, Novacek, Aikman. I love that, though they were the classic offense. They had all the tools. Harper, right? Harper, the big play guy. But it was the offensive line. I was running back as a kid in high school, junior college. So running was always in my blood. I always wanted, especially as a Dolphins fan, I never got to see a running back until Ricky, at the end at the tail end there for a brief moment. So I'd always been pining. I grew up loving Zonka and the power running and the awesome offensive line of the Dolphins. Good offensive line in the 80s. And, I even hated but admired the Hogs, Skins. But when you guys came, it was on a totally different level. I haven't watched all the old time games, but I don't think I've ever seen any unit dominate. I remember you guys were playing, I can't remember, it was a wild card game. You were playing Green Bay and Aikman was hurt and he told the offensive line, I can't get hit. And he didn't get hit. They protected him so well, he just sat in the pocket the entire game. And as much as I hated you guys for your greatness, I just couldn't deny it. So, I learned to admire the Cowboys through that offensive line. I don't really hate them much anymore. So I hope you guys do well. I have a little bit of a pull for you. And I think that recently the way you've built your offensive line had reestablished admiration for me because my Dolphins can't build an offensive line. You give them 15 first-round picks and they couldn't build an offensive line. So, but that's neither here nor there. But let's look at your team. I'm going to go over looking over your team, lay it out. I think it's pretty clear that you guys are in a great position. I think Jerry's going to set you up. I mean, Dak's coming off that horrible injury. He's got the big contract, horrible injury. We don't know how he's going to play. But those first 5 games, he was having his best year. That's such a shame, It's such a brutal injury. So we don't really know what's going on there. But you have to expect things are going well. And at some point this year, he's going to come back. So obviously, after what you paid, quarterback's not even in the market. Your receivers, Amari Cooper, he struggled very early and hard, got traded because all kind of issues. You brought him in, kind of paid a steep price for it. But to your credit, the things haven't been going the way you wanted. You haven't been a top elite team like you used to. At least you're not the Dolphins. You would turn around. Sorry, it's a thing here. But Coop, you helped reestablish Cooper, and he is now having successful season after successful season. You get the feel with him that his best years are still ahead of him. I mean, I really feel like the game's coming to him and slowing down. So you have 2 or 3 years from now, I think you could see the best of Cooper, and that's to your credit. That's to the credit of the staff, 2 staffs now going through. CeeDee Lamb, great pickup. I did a video on the difficulty of drafting receivers. And, I'm not, like I said, I'm not a Cowboy fan. I spend most of my time I write for a Finns blog. And so I'm studying them all the time. I kind of got my head in a bubble, in a fishbowl for the Dolphins. So I just went by stats and some quick looks and stuff like that. But I had said he was, he was doing okay. But when it really came to me that he was playing without Dak, and he still managed to get close to 1,000 yards as a rookie, I realized that was more impressive than I originally gave him credit for. So that was a great pickup. Then you got Michael Gallup, good player. So your receiving core is pretty much rock solid. Dak's got tools. I mean, really, would Pitts bring anything more to the table? A little bit. I mean, tight ends are the security blanket of the quarterback. You got Dalton Schultz. He's more of a pass-catching tight end at 244, but he's a pretty quality run blocker. He had a 65.4 PFF grade, which is pretty good. I wish Mike Gesicki had that. He had 600 yards, 9.8 per catch. So I just don't see Pitts being that valuable. I mean, it would be nice, but what would you have to give up? I think too much. So I think we could fairly eliminate. They're not moving up. I think there was just a smoke screen. Then your running backs, Ezekiel Elliott, he's only 26 years old. It feels like he's been in the league 10 years. Had a down year last year, but, a bunch of linemen were out. You guys got hit hard, man. Brutally hard last year with your injuries. So, you got to believe that he's ready to turn it up again. Have at least 1 or 2 more of those big years, that 1,400 yard season. And then Tony Pollard is a nice little complimentary back. He actually graded better than Ezekiel on PFF, about 5 points higher, but he only carried the ball, a third of the time. So, but quality backfield, and then your O-line. And it is to be admired. I love teams that value the offensive line. I hear all the time, get the receiver, get the running back. It's all about the offensive line. Look at the Titans. that offensive line rehabilitated Ryan Tannehill, and so I really appreciate that. I wish my Dolphins would get that in their heart. I think that's the core of all football, keeps defense open. But, you can't win with just a great offensive line. And I think that's the thing that, you need the defense too. A great offensive. Connor Williams, man, what a great pickup. Rated 16th best in the league. And it was amazing. Dude, he had 1,146 snaps. The guy had a big, long year last year at left guard. Great pickup at left guard. Great. I don't think, that's such a. And then Zach Martin, second best rated by PFF on right guard. Guards, a lockdown, best guard duo in the league, And then unfortunately you had issues. Tyron Smith went down with the neck. Leo Collins went down with the hip. And those are serious injuries. This is like the concern factor if I was a Cowboy fan. I don't know how they've rehabbed, but hip is brutal and neck is brutal. We have amazing technology today, but two just phenomenal players at the position. I think Tyron's kind of had a few rough years, but still very good. I don't know. I'd like to hear from the comments where they're at. I should have probably tracked this down a little bit more, but with so much information, I kind of let it slip. But those are very big injuries, and they signed just big contracts recently. So you have, Ezekiel Elliott, Dak, Collins, and Smith, all, three of them coming off big injuries, and one off a down season, and big money in a descending cap era. So, for your guys' sake, you got to hope that at least three of these guys make good. Because from looking at over the cap, I don't even think you can get out of these. I mean, obviously, Dak, you can't get out of it. That's a new thing. But for the other three, I think you're locked in for at least this year and maybe next year. So it's these guys don't come back. It's a lot of money in a shrinking cap. And I still don't know if this cap's going to keep going down, to tell you the truth. I really don't. But, I think the good news for you guys is a key piece is another reinvestment on the offensive line is Tyler Biadasz. That's a tough name, Biadasz. 32nd, and he hasn't had really a successful season. He, just by going, I haven't watched the film. I really believe in film. But because I'm doing this, I'm not a fan of the team. I'm not really watching constant film of your team. I got to go by analytics, stats and all this other stuff. But from what I see on PFF, he's below average and has been below average for 3 years. And so he's a piece that needs to be shipped out. And I think there's some good centers in that third and second round, late second, early third. There's about 2 or 3 really good centers. So you guys could get, I think that would really help. It might take, because, even if you have problems with those tackles and say only one comes back and only needs to come back later, if you can fortify those front 3 interior spots, at least you can get that run game going with Ezekiel. Still got the power and some burst, and he can take some pressure off Dak. So, really, aside from center, I don't really see you guys needing much of anything. Maybe a tight end if there's a good one, a good buy somewhere, but it's all about the defense. So that 10th spot has to be, unless it's a trade back. I would be amazed, and I wouldn't put it past Jared to do a trade back, and that could really help you too. I don't know if it'd be the best move, because I think, there's a lot of people debate about the cornerbacks in this draft, but I think Patrick Surtain, the second, I'm a little biased, obviously. His father's a Dolphin, but his father was phenomenal. And this kid appears to be really good. He can play, he can play press, he can play off, zone, man. I mean, he appears to be an elite corner, and that really would lift your defense. But anyway, before we continue, we have a sponsor here, Ace Per Head. And I just want to give a shout out because they have a new promo running. If you check down on the link in the description below, you'll see they have a promo. Very hot. If that's your thing, I would definitely check it out and click on it. It's been getting rave reviews. So just want to give a shout out to a very, very, very great sponsor. Okay, now back to the defense. There are pieces that you guys have pieces. I think the best parts of your defense are the edges and top. You have 2 good safeties, and you have one really elite D-end who maybe is not getting the sack production you'd hope, but still he's playing really well. And then you have possibly another end in Randy Gregory, but it's your interiors and your boundaries that are really concerning. And, you have Trayvon Diggs, 58th ranked corner in the league, 65.7 PFF grade, but he was a rookie last year. And so for me, if you look at the Dolphins, they picked up Ignabony, and he couldn't last. He played terrible, and he was drafted in the first round. So, we don't know long-term how these guys are going to play out. But for a quick start, for a 1-year evaluation, Diggs looks like he could be somebody. At the very least, a third or a second. It might really help him to get a Surtain to play across from him, and this would push some of the talent against him to play against lesser talent. And so the addition of, I keep saying Surtain over and over because I think that's the pick for you guys, who could really solidify those boundaries with the safeties you've got over the top. I think just that one pick, you'd actually have to fill out your secondary. You don't really have too many other good plays. You do nickel and, a third and all that other stuff. But one pick would really take care of that perimeter at the top. All right. And then, you look at your safeties. Donovan Wilson. He's only in his second year, and he posted 72.0 PFF grade, 18th overall. Did a little looking at him. The kid looks good. Free safety, I believe, right? Not much of a tackle. His only weakness seems to be his tackling. A pretty good blitzing. He had pretty high value in those 8 blitzes he did all season. And then you got Keanu Neal. He's a little bit older, 68.2 PFF grade, but 33rd in the league, in the box kind of strong safety. I think he had about 100 tackles. So, those are quality safeties. And like I said, if you add Surtain and you have Diggs over there, one pick, that would be very, very good. But then we get to the linebackers. Van Der Esch had that amazing 2018 season. It goes to show you how tough the NFL is. That guy's big dude. He's a little thin or whatever. Amazing season. Amazing. It was, we're seeing a new kind, and then injuries started piling up, and he's had 2 very down seasons. I haven't kept track of his injuries. I kind of wanted the Dolphins to look at him, and I really liked his tape. Shame. And then there's Jalen Smith, who was a very good feel-good story, getting picked over, though injured, coming back. He had a couple really good seasons, but then fell off as the 44th best linebacker in the league. But what was was it the fact that the defense, the offense kept him on the field too long? The defense broke down? Was it nagging injuries? And the guy who would play was really looking like an amazing pickup by you guys. And he was really looking very good for a couple of years. I heard some people saying that it was some of the stats were padded or not. Can you guys just give me some comments on that? Now that I'm covering more teams, I'm really trying to absorb as much as I can about all the players. So I'd appreciate any wisdom. Okay. But then, all right, that's an iffy thing. Is Van Der Esch going to come back? I don't know. If he does, is what he's going to be. So linebackers. But again, the good news for you guys, deep linebacker group. And Quinn, I did a video on the Falcons, and so I got to look at his defenses. He likes small defenses. Quick linebackers, quick defensive line and stuff like that. So I don't know where they're going to go. Both your linebackers kind of fit that mold, but we don't know if Van Der Esch is going to can really be functional going forward. But like I said, there's some good linebackers you could pick up all the way into the second, third rounds. So that's not really a consideration, in the first round. Your DI, defensive interior, was terrible from what I saw as far as PFF grades and stats. Yeah, it looked like you had Brent Urban, 6'7", though, 300 on the interior. That's very difficult. I'm surprised at that size and lightweight that he's able to maintain leverage on the interior. And he had a great run defense. A little longer to 2014 is when he was drafted. But I was very surprised at the player. I mean, it really makes me want to watch tape to see how he gets it done. He must have very low, very abnormal strength for a guy that big, that tall, and that slight, or just has great pad levels. So he was a very interesting player. I definitely got to check some tape on him. And then there's your edges. DeMarcus Lawrence, he, two years ago, he had like the 15 and the 14 sacks. He hasn't had that kind of production, but 4 forced fumbles, 6.5 sacks, graded 4th best by PFF. So, I mean, I think it's really his diminished production is just simply because the talent around him is not supporting him, especially on the interior. If you're not playing with great interior linemen that puts so much, he's probably getting double teamed, shipped, you name it. They're bringing a bus and hitting him before he gets off the line, whatever. I mean, I still think there's way better days ahead for him if you can just get that interior. We'll talk about this. Some good quality, again, later round picks. And this also could really speak to a trade back and getting an extra second or third round pick to really help you guys out. It could have a lot of value. I don't know if I'd want to get out of that 10 spot though. But then Randy Gregory, he only had 270 snaps, but graded well. So I don't know why. Was he injured? I don't know what the deal is. I remember he had some kind of issues, and he was always a good player, but there was some kind of issues. I don't know what the deal was. So, at least you have 1 star and 1 rotational guy. And, honestly, I don't think that another end is as critical as that interior. There are no studs in this draft. There could be studs as we see them, come into the league and find their way. But as far as a prospect, there's no initial studs. So you're looking like in the second and the third round. You're looking at Christian Barrymore. He's probably considered one of the top possible stars, but he only had 1 year production, a little hot and cold for Alabama. Quality player, sort of fits into your scheme of pass rushers and smaller kind of guys. I mean, me personally, I like Slayton of Florida. I like Brown of Texas. I like the bigger, old school. I'm an old dude. You know what I'm saying? I want the big 320 pounds, 6'4" guys inside the dinosaurs, double gapping. And if they're like a superstar, maybe they can do the 1 gap shoot if they're that big. And, but I prefer the double gappers. Carlos Kemp from Michigan. I thought maybe he might fit into a Quinn style interior lineman, and he'd probably fall into like that 3rd, 4th round range. I think he was a quality player. So, as we wrap it up, I believe that Jerry, at least with his son on the side, telling him, stop, you ain't going to the 4th. I don't think I think anything it's a move back. I think 10th is a cornerback. It's got to be a cornerback. It's just nothing else really seems to make sense. Now, I could be wrong. You guys have a lot more contacts watching those games. There's little plays here that they might not grade well in PFF, but there's this and that and the other thing, and they can pop up. So let me know about that. But from my standpoint, it would seem cornerback's the deal. 2nd round, linebacker or DI. Maybe I'd probably go DI. And you might be able to trade back in that 2nd round if somebody's willing, and then you could maybe pick up a later 4th or 5th. And then, because that early 2nd might be a little too early for a DI, the DI talent that we see. But, if he grades well with your staff and your scouts, then maybe, you're smarter than the average bear. But overall, I really feel good about you guys' chances. Not saying I hope you guys do well, I mean, obviously, I'm in the AFC East, so it's not going to hurt me too much. But I'm kind of a Fitzpatrick fan. I know. Don't shut the tape off. I'm sort of rooting for Washington because I just love Fitzpatrick so much. I kind of think he was done wrong, unfortunately. I think Ross kind of pushed him out. He's a good guy, man. He's a good quarterback. I think you guys got to worry about him. Don't believe all the hype of Fitzmagic, Fitztragic. When it's in context of the games and when you see what the situations are, a lot of that tragic stuff is the media trying to create something. He's still got juice, and he's got a lot of talent. It's going to be a very tough fight for you guys to beat Washington this year. You're going to have to draft well. Maybe get some post-draft, definitely some post-draft undrafted free agents and some cheap vets. But it's going to be a tough fight for you guys to get that first place in the division. So I'm kind of rooting for Fitz. But overall, you guys are a quality franchise. There's nothing to really dislike about you. I really... you're part of the Hall of Fame of franchises. So best of luck this year, guys. Best of luck. I hope you guys draft well. Tomorrow's the big day. And I hope you enjoyed my little outside looking in view of your team. If you enjoyed what you saw, please like, comment, and subscribe. Most of all, comment. I really like the comments. That information. That's why I do this stuff, a little bit of but I just love football. I love knowledge. So just comment, let's have a chat, and be well.